Hi friends, this is Faizan Kagbi and welcome to our lecture series of Basic Mechanical Engineering. In our last session, we have discussed about comparison between heat transfer and work transfer, right? And we have also started with our thermodynamic laws. In that we have already studied zeroth law of thermodynamics. Okay, so now let's begin with our next thermodynamic law, that is first law of thermodynamics. So in a first law, as we all know, that it says energy can neither be created nor it can be destroyed, but it can be converted from one form to another form. Right, we all know that. Another definition with respect to system and surrounding is that whenever there is an energy interaction between system and surrounding, then we would say the energy gained or received by the system must be exactly equal to the energy lost by its surrounding, or vice versa. That is, energy lost by the system must be exactly equal to the energy gained by the surrounding. Okay, so we are actually going to see the application of this first law. You have already studied the statement. Okay, then over here we are going to study the applications where it is going to be applied. Along with that, what are the limitations of first law? So according to this statement, we can say that change in total energy will be equal to net heat and work transfer, or work and heat interaction between system and surrounding. So by taking an example, let's take an example that according to this statement, we can say that energy, that is kinetic energy, can be completely converted into potential energy, as well as potential energy can be completely converted into kinetic energy. This is what a first law states. Similarly, first law states that heat can flow from a high temperature body to a low temperature body, as well as from a low temperature body to a high temperature body. But we actually know that a second statement, that is a heat flow from a low temperature body to a high temperature body, it's not possible. But first law states that it is possible. So this is a limitation of first law, right? Similarly, taking an example that a person is standing on a mountain, okay, and he has a ball in his hand. Now when he throws a ball in a downward direction from a mountain, so we would say that a ball possesses a potential energy. So that potential energy will be gradually converted into a kinetic energy, right? And the assisting force is a gravitational force in a downward direction. Now thinking that whether a reverse is possible, that is, a person standing on a ground is throwing a ball in an upward direction on a mountain. No, it is not possible, right? That is, a kinetic energy exerted on a ball cannot be converted into a potential energy. Why? Because of force, that is gravitational force, is going to resist that. So a conversion from a potential to kinetic is, we would say, possible. That is, a gravitational force is assisting, but a reverse is not possible. Whereas the first law states that both process is possible. Okay, so according to this statement, the equation becomes delta E is equal to Q minus W, as you can see on a screen. So delta E is a change in total energy. Now this change includes a change in kinetic energy, a change in potential energy, a change in internal energy, as well as various forms of change. We would even say a change in enthalpy, right? Now this generalized equation we are going to apply on a three types of a system, that is a closed system, cyclic system and open system. So let's see case 1. In a closed system, as we know that a heat interaction is possible, but a mass interaction is not possible across the system boundary, right? So according to that, since the mass cannot cross the system boundary, then we would say the change in kinetic energy, as the system is confined, remember the gas or a fluid is confined, so there is no movement between a system and a surrounding. There is no movement of a gas between system and a surrounding. So change in kinetic energy will be 0, as well as change in potential energy will also be 0. But there can be a heat interaction between a system and a surrounding, right? Because of that, the internal energy of a gas can be increased. So we would say, according to the equation of delta E is equal to Q minus W, we can say that delta E is equal to delta U. So the equation for case 1 going to become delta U is equal to Q minus W. Okay, now let's see our next case, that is case 2. cyclic system. So as we have already discussed that when a system undergoes a process and whenever a system returns to its initial state at the end of a process, then initial and final state is going to remain same, which means the change in energy or a change in total energy will always be 0. So I have kept delta E is equal to 0. So this I have represented on a PV diagram. You can see that from state 1 to state 2 is a process 1 to 2, and from a state 2 to state 1, that is returning to its initial state, is a process 2 to 1. So a total change in energy, that is delta E, will always be 0. Now substituting this value of delta E in our equation of delta E is equal to Q minus W, what we will get? So we get Q is equal to W, indicating that whatever heat is supplied is completely converted into a work energy or work transfer, which in actual case is not possible. This indicates that 100% conversion of heat energy is taking place into work energy, but we know heat is a low grade energy, so this process is a hypothetical. Cyclic process is a hypothetical process. Now let's see our case 3, that is open system. Now in this diagram I have shown an arbitrary system. At an inlet 1, that is I have shown section 1 from which a fluid is going to enter the system, and a section 2 from which fluid is going to come out from a system. Even I have shown a datum reference surface, that is Earth surface. So we would say that this system is at a height Z1 at a section 1 and at a height Z2 at section 2. Now as you can see that a fluid is entering a system at section 1 having a height Z1, and it is leaving the system at section 2 which is at a height Z2 from a datum surface, that is Earth surface. Now for example I am taking that my fluid is a steam. So what type of energy or which different forms of energy it is going to possess? So we would say it has an internal energy, right? Then it has a flow energy P1 V1. We know U plus PV is our enthalpy, right? Then what else? So it is entering a system, which means it has a kinetic energy mv square by 2, right? But over here we are going to represent velocity by c. Remember this. So the formula will be mc square by 2, right? Along with that, it is at a height z, so we can say potential energy mgh, right? But over here I have represented height by z, so we can say mgz. Okay. And it is entering an open system. Now we would say that a system will either perform some work, mechanical power, or will not perform work, and finally that fluid, that is our steam, is going to leave the system from section 2, okay, which is at a height Z2. So when it is leaving the system, again we would say its energy, that is the energy of a steam, is utilized. So how much energy will be available at section 2? So we would say that enthalpy will be H2, right? Then kinetic energy will be mc2 square by 2, right? Then potential energy will be at a height Z2, right? So mgz2 plus what else we have obtained? So the system has performed work. Okay, at an entry a steam is going to possess a heat energy, right? So Q will be a input, and finally with respect to that, at a output what is going to be done by a system? So work output will be done by a system. So according to first law, the statement is going to become energy entering the system at section 1 along with that heat energy plus heat energy is equal to energy leaving the system at section 2 plus work output. Okay, so I have converted into a form of equation as you can see on your screen, that is H1 plus C1 square by 2 plus Z1G. Now why I have written C1 square by 2? Actually the formula is MC square by 2, but as we have discussed that a mass we are going to take 1 kg. Okay, so the equation will be H1 plus C1 square by 2 plus Z1G, that is our potential energy, plus Q, that is a heat energy which a steam possesses, is equal to energy leaving the system, that is how much? So H2 plus C2 square by 2 plus Z2G plus along with that what we have obtained, so work output. So I have written plus W. So the final equation as you can see on your screen, it is going to become H2 minus H1 plus C2 square minus C1 square by 2 plus Z2 minus Z1G is equal to Q minus W. So you can see the Q minus W comparing with our actual equation of a first law, that is delta E is equal to Q minus W. So this first term is our delta E. and this equation you have to keep in mind, we will apply while solving numericals. Okay, so I hope you are clear with our first law of thermodynamics. Now let's see the limitations of first law. So the first limitation is that first law does not predict whether certain process is possible or not. Okay, then spontaneous process proceeds in a particular direction. That is, for example, heat transfer will take place from a high temperature body to a low temperature body. Okay, but a reverse is not possible. So a spontaneous heat transfer is taking place, but it is not showing that in which direction the heat transfer will take place. That is, from a low temperature body to a high temperature body, or from a high to low. Okay. Then after, first law does not provide a specific condition for certain process or a particular process to take place. So taking a simple case that a hot coffee is kept in a room, so we would say that a heat transfer will take place from a hot coffee to the surrounding atmosphere, which is obvious. Okay, this follows the first law. But first law also says that a heat transfer from a surrounding to a hot coffee can be done for heating the coffee. Will it be possible? No. That is, the surrounding is not going to supply heat energy to heat a coffee again. But for doing that, we have to keep a coffee on our gas stove. So we can say that first law does not provide a specific condition for a process to take place. Similarly, as I have discussed, that according to first law, heat can be completely converted into work and work can be completely converted into heat. Similarly, heat can flow from a hot body to a low body and vice versa, which as first law states. Then kinetic energy can be completely converted into potential energy and even a vice versa. Okay, so as you can see on your screen, the observations, as I have discussed, the example of coffee, that is heat transfer from a coffee to a surrounding and from a surrounding to a coffee is not possible. Similarly, heating a coil, okay, transferring a heat energy to a wire will not generate electricity, whereas a reverse is possible. Okay, and another example is a Joule's experiment, in which it is showing that when a force is given to a mass, that is a potential energy is applied, so a steering effect will be obtained, and because of that, whatever fluid is present in a cylinder will be heated up, heat will be generated. But the reverse, that is transferring heat energy to a steering fan and converting it into a potential energy, that is lifting the weight, is not possible. So these are all the limitations of a first law of thermodynamics, and this has been overcome by considering a second law of thermodynamics. So let's see our second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so let's begin with our second law. Now second law has two statements. That is, first statement is called a Kelvin-Planck statement, that was given by Kelvin and Planck, and second statement name is a Clausius statement, that is given by Clausius. So let's see our first statement, that is Kelvin-Planck statement. It is impossible to construct a device which, while operating in a cycle, produces no effect except extract heat energy, that is extract heat energy from a single reservoir and do equivalent amount of work. Which means what? That in general sense, there is no such device which has a thermal efficiency of 100%. Okay, we can say that no device can have 100% efficiency. So as you can see on your screen, I have shown two diagrams, that is a flow diagram, heat engine diagrams. In first diagram, it is a representation of violation of Kelvin-Planck statement. Second diagram represents a satisfactory condition of a Kelvin-Planck statement. Now in your diagram you can see heat reservoir, so that is called a heat source from which a heat energy can be supplied to our engine. The circle represents a heat engine, and bottom side, that is written a cold reservoir, that is our heat sink, where the heat energy can be rejected by our heat engine. Taking a simple case of a IC engine, that is our IC engine is a one type of a heat engine, right? So the heat source is our petrol and air mixture entering in a cylinder, right? Then combustion takes place inside a cylinder, and then some amount of energy is going to reject to our surrounding atmosphere, which means our surrounding atmosphere is our heat sink or a cold reservoir, with respect to our engine. Okay, so what it indicates, so you can see Q1 amount of heat energy is supplied to an engine, and first diagram shows that whatever heat energy is supplied is completely converted into work output, right, indicating a 100% conversion of a heat energy into work energy, which we know it is not possible, which means in actual case, for example, 60 kilojoule of heat energy supplied to an engine, that is Q is equal to 60 kilojoule, then out of that we would say that 40 kilojoule, let's say, is a work output, and a remaining 20 kilojoule will always be rejected to our surrounding atmosphere. So the first diagram represents Q is completely converted into work output, which is not possible, which is a violation of Kelvin-Planck statement. Whereas the second diagram, as you can see, represents the same parts: heat source, that is our heat reservoir; heat sink, that is cold reservoir; heat engine, that is shown by a circle. Now you can see Q1 amount of heat is supplied to an engine. Out of that, some portion is converted into external work or a work output, and a remaining portion is rejected to the surrounding atmosphere, right? That is QR, or Q2 is rejected to the atmosphere. So this flow diagram satisfies the Kelvin-Planck statement. So you can understand a statement that it is impossible to construct a device, which means a first type of a device or a first diagram which is shown, such device cannot be constructed which while operating in a cycle produces no effect except extract or take heat energy from a single reservoir, which means over here single reservoir is our hot reservoir, okay, heat source, and do equivalent amount of work, which means Q is completely converted into work energy, which is not possible. Okay, so this is what a Kelvin-Planck has told in our second law of thermodynamics. Now let's see our next statement of second law, that is given by Clausius. Even it's called a Clausius statement. Now what Clausius has told? So he told it is impossible to construct a device which while operating in a cycle produces no effect except transfer heat energy from a low temperature body to a high temperature body. Or in other words, in general sense, we can say heat cannot flow from a colder body to a hotter body. So as you can see on your screen, I have shown a first diagram representing a violation of Clausius statement, and a second diagram represents a satisfactory condition for a Clausius statement. In a first diagram again, I have shown three important components: hot reservoir, then heat pump I have written, and cold reservoir. So basically a heat pump is a one which is going to extract the heat energy from a cold reservoir and deliver it to a hot reservoir. So heat pump is basically, we can refer it to a heater. Okay, now what's the purpose of heater and when it will be used? So we know that heater are usually used in our winter season, specifically in a condition when a temperature is in a surrounding atmospheric temperature is negative, that is below 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, so in that case it is required to maintain a temperature of our room up to our human comfort, according to our human comfort. Let's say for example 20 degree Celsius. So what a heater is going to do? So heater is going to absorb the surrounding cold air and will pass that air over a heating coil. Okay, so heating coil is going to heat up that air, and again that heated air will be discharged into our surrounding room. Okay, so it is a continuous process. So let's take a simple example that a heater or a heat pump has absorbed heat energy from a cold reservoir, that is QC, let's say it is equal to 60 kilojoule, and a work input done by electric current or electricity is we would say 40 kilojoule. So total 60 plus 40 kilojoule work is done on air, which is finally discharged to our surrounding room, that is our hot room, which has to be maintained at certain high temperature. Okay, so there are two statements in the second law, that is first is a Kelvin-Planck statement and second is a Clausius statement. So I hope guys that you are clear with our thermodynamic laws. Now today we are keeping up till here, and we will continue with our next topic of calorific value, and along with that we are also going to take numericals in our next session. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you all.